do a quick introduction because I know I see a few new names, which I'm really excited about. But so I'm Michelle Goldberg. I'm the president of Gold Ribbon Rescue and the head of our training and behavior team. And we have been hosting these monthly webinars. We call it the More You Know series. And See Spot Behave is our training partner that we have worked with for quite a while. They've worked with a lot of our dogs that are currently in care, and then they've worked with several dogs that have been adopted or people that have found them with their dogs that weren't even Gold Ribbon dogs. And we love Debbie and Diane. They're extremely knowledgeable. They bring us a lot of great information. And so I'm going to turn it over to them and let them introduce themselves because they have a lot of titles that are important to know behind their name. And I don't want to mess that up. So.
Titles sound good, doesn't it? Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the webinar for this evening. And I'll tell you, one of the things I'm really excited about is, one, it's the end of January, which feels like February and Valentine's Day. So happy New Year, happy Valentine's Day. And I'm really excited because this is the 10th webinar we've done together, Michelle. This is amazing.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? And this topic was chosen by Patsy because of a question that came up from the last webinar. She sent a message to Diane and I at the end and said, hey, would you cover this material more? And so this is her fault, or her credit. Either way. So anyway, I'm Debbie Puckett, and I'm part of See Spot Behave, which is Diane's brainchild. And See Spot Behave has been around for, about 8 years, Diane? Yeah. Yes, around there. We worked together at a company called Dog Boys, was here in Austin, that closed in very sadly in 2022. And we formed together to work together. And we really focus on two things: our love of dogs in the human world, that's Diane's love, and she'll talk about it, and our love of helping dogs who really don't understand, being able to break the code and do better in the human world. So helping them reinterpret. This slide's going to help with that a lot. My personal background is I was an educator for a little over 20 years, and in the meantime, while it was going on, I also was brought into dog training by a dog that needed some help. And so as I started helping, getting her to training and getting her reactivity dealt with, I looked at this and went, I really love doing this. And I apprenticed with a local trainer here and then got certified. And my certifications are, I'm a certified dog trainer. I'm a certified behavior consultant. And my most recent certification is the family dog mediator, which has to do with exactly what we talked about, helping dogs that might have some struggles better integrate into the family culture they're in, deal with things like anxiety, aggression, whatever we have, and help them, live a comfortable, happy life with their people. So that's how Diane and I connected over that bond with the human dog bond. Diane, you go.
So Diane, I started See Spot Behave, like Debbie said, about 8 years ago in California. And why I got into training is I too had a crazy dog that was tearing apart my kitchen, and so had to figure out a way to not have her tear up my kitchen, and started doing basic training, lots of classes, did some agility with her, and through that started to fall in love with it. Mm-hmm. Ended up working with also an animal behaviorist in California, worked, towards getting my education with them, then started doing training with them, and then came to Texas, met Debbie at Dog Boys, which unfortunately, closed, and from there started See Spot Behave here. So I am the lead trainer. I'm the one that goes out and says, this is what we're going to do with our dogs today. And what I really enjoy, and kind of my shift right now, which has really kind of started as I started to work with Debbie, is not only doing the behavior work, which is really challenging but very necessary, is starting to look at training differently. And what I mean by that is that I've done tons of obedience training. I've done tons of, sits and downs and stays. And what I'm finding and through not only my own practice, but also from experts in the field is that it's really more about building a relationship with your dog and then finding ways to communicate with them. So part of it can be obedience training, but I'm doing a lot more now of games and ways to get your dog to participate in a way that makes them happy too. So they're not just looking at you going, why? And so, but anyways, that's kind of my thing. My love right now is really, how do you build a relationship with your dog? How can you find ways to communicate with them beyond just the, I need you to sit, I need you to lie down, getting them really excited about it so that they're going, yes, this is fun. And then finding that their responses to things in the people world come much faster because of that bond and that trust. So that's where I am right now, but that's what I do with C-Spot Behave, and also now C-Spot Have Fun, which is this program that we're putting together and starting to share.
Yep. And golden retrievers are like the perfect breed for fun. It's like that's their main motivator, which is great. I just do a little housekeeping for all of you in a couple things. You know, you can mute your microphone so you can just relax. You can turn off your camera so you don't have to be on camera until you want to talk. You are welcome to interrupt and ask questions anytime in the presentation. It is absolutely fine. So don't feel like there's like a place that you have to very politely wait until. There is time built at the end to ask more in-depth questions if you like. And then also, I don't know if you have this on your screen, but there's also a way to respond to questions by using the icons that are kind of right above the bar at the bottom. And so, for instance, I can use this thumbs up. Hey, hi guys. Or like when Michelle's good news, we hit the celebration. So if you want to, interact, you can do it that way too, if you'd like to. There's also a way in the chat to like raise your hand. You really don't have to raise your hand. You can just jump in unless someone else is talking. If you do raise your hand, Diane is going to be the crowd spotter and help me see whose hand is raised so I can stop and address your questions. So let's get started. Like I said, this topic came out of the last webinar we did. And it was organically generated because one of the things that we were talking about was fearful dogs, and how did fearful dogs, come to be, and the assumption in a lot of lay people and even trainers' minds is that if a dog is fearful, then they've been abused. And if they are flinchy or startled or reluctant to bond or come near people, they've been, bait dogs or they've been abused. And although that is possible, because we do see in rescue cases where dogs have been taken out of those situations, it's really uncommon. And we're seeing flinchy, startly, scared dogs because actually their education is lacking. And so that's where this title is, that, the dogs that we're getting they're not broken, they're not abused. They actually have just missed major parts of their education, their development as they've grown. And those big gaps are what have helped them decide that the world around them is scary and has created these side behaviors that we attribute to fear or even reactivity and aggression. So as we go through, we're going to look at these two major periods in a dog's development. And if you took any Psych 101 in high school or college, you probably will feel like your memory going, oh, I remember these terms. And some of you in the medical or helping fields will already know this information. So, if you feel like, oh, I want to say something about that, jump in and add to the conversation, please do. So what we're going to talk about first is the heck is a critical period. So we're going to talk about this way. So here we go. Let me wake up my little browser there. Hey, ooh, I'm drawing now. Did not expect to do that. There we go. It did go to sleep. Hold on one moment. I have to wake it up. There we go. Haha. Okay. Critical period in development is a small window of time. And the reason why it's called critical is it's super important. That window in time is when the brain or the physiology of the organism is primed and ready to learn or develop a particular skill. And so critical periods really, they're not really about knowledge, they're about behavior. And these critical periods are like, this perfect opportunity for something to happen. And should that thing not happen during that critical period, then it's not that the organism cannot learn it. It just becomes significantly more difficult. And so critical periods are actually rewiring the brain and rewiring the nervous system of the organism for good or for null, not necessarily for bad, but it just doesn't get learned if we don't have the right information. So as puppies are developing, they're not really just learning knowledge, they're learning how they can operate in the world, what to understand the world is around them, and then how to, interact. And so when we talk about critical period, guess what we mean? This is what we mean. So it's a limited window, very specific in the time and phase of that organism, in this case, a puppy. It's when the brain is ready in development. And I know that if you've talked about human development, we talk about adolescent development all the time. And we talk about the prefrontal cortex, which is judgment, the ability to think about consequences in the future. And we know the teenagers don't have it yet. And so usually we have a lot of allowances for that, and we provide structure and help teenagers make decisions so that as that piece of their brain, their part of their brain is developing, they have scaffolding. And one thing we know about humans is that that part of the brain isn't really done until we're about 25 to 28 years old, which is, now that if you're on the way other side of that, you're like, oh yeah. But when you're younger, it's hard to tell people that. Puppies are the same. They're developing their prefrontal cortex and understanding the world around them. In this time period, the critical period, learning is vast. It's so fast. It's so lightning quick. And that's very deep once it's learned. So something learned during the critical period is really embedded. And then once the window closes, the learning and the plasticity shifts. So that's what we mean by this. Okay. So for puppies, when is that? Well, when we're looking at the prime learning age for puppies, what we're looking at is socialization and safety. So how do I interact with beings around me? Mainly dogs is what they're wired for, but also humans, because we've engineered them. So ages 3 weeks to 12 weeks is the big target. When you get to the most sensitive period, it's 3 to 7 weeks. And some researchers would argue it's actually 4 to 6 weeks is like the perfect bullseye target to be learning the things we're going to talk about. So the brain is rewiring this during this period. And what's happening in the rewiring is neurons are being grown and pruned. So neurons that are being used are grown and reinforced, and neurons that are not being used are being pruned. And so all of this is true before the puppies are learning what to be afraid of. So it's really important that we understand that this first period is about safety and fear as well as socialization. There's a concept of socialization that we all have talked about before in past webinars, and it's something I want to bring up again. Most folks out there define socialization as dog to dog. So I need to socialize my puppy means I need puppies to play with other puppies, dogs to hang out with other dogs. But socialization in this critical period, and really in terms of dogs' growth, is becoming able to approach novelty and manage that novelty, not be afraid of it, and catalog and interact with it. All novelty, other dogs, humans, things that make noise, different smells, different textures. Puppies that are raised in big breeding capacity often won't go to the bathroom on anything but the substrate they're on because they miss these periods because they're only on concrete. Just all kinds of things that are sensory that have to do with, quote, socialization. So it isn't just dog to dog having fun or dog to people. It's their socialization is understanding their whole world. So think about it in a much broader text. There's a very famous dog trainer that is actually an excellent author too. His name is Dr. Ian Dunbar. He's one of the old school. He wrote a lot in the 70s and 80s. He became a little more popular in the 90s. And he has a checklist for puppies in this time period we're talking about now, up to 12 weeks, that he says he'd like the puppies between ages 3 weeks to 12 weeks to encounter 100 different things that are completely novel so that they can manage socialization. And he discriminates a lot, like, a baseball cap versus a cowboy hat, so dogs get used to the hats and they don't freak out when they see humans with this extra thing on their head. So you might look up Ian Dunbar's idea of socialization. It's very big. But what we've learned is it doesn't need to be vast. It needs to be quality, so that the puppy isn't being overexposed. They're being safely exposed. And that's key. So I'm going to pause for a second before we dive in. Are there any questions or thoughts here? Oh, why did that do that? Sorry about that half screen. There we go. None? Okay, there. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. So why is this particularly powerful? Because if the puppy isn't really afraid of things, fear is not really online yet until about 12 weeks, we can introduce them to tons of stuff. And they will go, huh, cool, instead of, oh my God. And so that gives us a huge range of opportunity. So we can say, hey, look at this thing that you might be afraid of, like a bike or a scooter or a skateboard or a musical instrument. And they go, huh, cool, because they feel safe. And it's within that critical period. The brain accepts information in this period. So puppies are open to novelty. They're interested in novelty, and they look at new things and move towards them. But just like toddlers, you have to be there to go, when they move towards things they shouldn't, because they have no fear. And that exposure, all of that is what we call socialization. Now, for a lot of puppies, if you even clap loudly, if you make a giant noise, you will see them go, huh, if they've made it through that period with safe, secure attachment to their caregiver as well. So another thing we can talk about in the future is parenting styles and attachment, and how that's similar to dog rearing styles, and how we can come in as a surrogate parent and help with this critical period remediation if we need to. So we'll talk about that some other time. All right. Oh, go ahead. Anyone want to jump in? I heard something. Okay. So when it goes well, look at this little puppy. If it's going well, you get this puppy. You get the world that the dog thinks this world is survivable. Things are fun. Things are interesting and safe. They tend not to recoil from things. When things are new, they process them quickly and they don't show big stress. So you might see in a lot of puppy classes, they will do a startle test with puppies, like maybe clack 2 bowls together. And puppies that have a good sense here of security in this critical period, they'll go, oh, and then they'll go, okay. And they won't have a huge reaction to that. And it is an indicator of a puppy that's having a stressful time or possibly not learning well in this period if they have a strong response and don't recover well. The recovery is the important part. So we want flexible dogs that recover well, even when novelty is a little bit scary. So that's our goal. And we're setting a baseline of a dog that has a sense of adventure, a dog that's interested in checking things out. So here's the downside of that. When they miss their critical period, this first one, remember this is ages 3 weeks to 12 weeks, when they've been put in isolation, like in kennels, or they've been whelped in isolation, when they've been, in unfortunately, the big farming setups where they don't have anything other than that box that they're in for stimulation, they tend to react to the world as novelty is bad. And so lack of exposure means it's scary. So lack of safe exposure is really the problem. So you can have a puppy that's had parvo and has been in a home and has had limited exposure, but as long as what they've been exposed to has felt safe to them, they will be way ahead of a healthy, physically perfect baby puppy that has had little exposure. But what they have had has been scary. So that's they have to have a safe attachment and safe environment. If we introduce them to things too quickly, if it's traumatic, if they feel isolated, if they are stressed out and not comforted, then they learn the world is scary. So it is a myth that you should not comfort your puppy. You should comfort your puppy. If your puppy is scared, comfort that baby. They won't learn to become, to ask for comfort. They won't be weak. You'll actually help them address that scary thing and feel better about it. And if they really don't have much exposure, just for some reason, medical or otherwise, make sure those exposures feel safe to the puppy. Go slow, let them explore, let them approach. I know all of you have seen the puppy that kind of, goes back and forth at something, and we think it's, it's cute and it's funny, but the emotion that's going on inside that dog that is creeping towards and backing up and creeping towards is turmoil. And so if you can do anything to help that puppy feel good about that approach, you're going to be helping them form a sense of confidence in their world. Okay. What's it like if you have a dog, an adult dog that has missed that first critical period? And we can tell the difference between the two. So when I explain the two, you'll go, aha. So if we have an adult dog that has missed that first critical period, we're going to see a dog that has a high startle reflex. They're very fearful. They tend to be, skittish around novelty. Everyday things freak them out and always freak them out. Like they don't get used to it. They don't have a recovery level to it, which is that's the issue. They tend to avoid. So that's the dog that bolts when they're afraid, as opposed to comes to you for comfort when they're afraid. They tend to take off. They will not engage when something's new. The dog that withdraws under the table or under the couch or into another room instead of, being willing to check something new out. They will shut down. They'll withdraw, like this dog in the image here, where that dog does not want any interaction. They'll look away, they'll close themselves off, and they will not invite any interaction with novelty. They are super sensitive to sound and touch and weird surfaces and movement they don't predict. They do things like on a walk, they'll see a plastic bag blow in the wind and it freaks them out. And then the next time they see a plastic bag, they don't go, oh, that was a plastic bag and it was fine. They go, oh my God, there it is again. They don't bounce back. Okay. And this is actually, I sent Diana a video that was supposed to be funny, but it was a video from a horse's point of view, a very high spirited, scary, skittish horse. And the person was narrating for the horse, and the horse like, what is that blue thing? And why is it there? And it's like, that's an exact example of a dog that it did not get a good first critical period because they're questioning why are these things in their environment and they don't relax. So it's not an absence of learning. It's not really a memory of bad things. I'm sorry, it is an absence of learning. It's not really a memory of bad things, of being hit or yelled at, or, they had a bad experience with the plastic bag. But what happened is they just think all things are scary and they don't recover and learn with each exposure. Questions or thoughts on that? Okay. So why do humans assume abuse? We do. Lots of us do. And in fact, almost always when someone gets a skitsy dog and they're talking to me, they're like, this dog was definitely abused. And I'll ask, how do you know that? And they'll use the evidence of the dog's behavior, but not have any evidence of being seized from a fight ring or being taken from a domestic violence situation or having any particular trauma experience that they can cite. That doesn't mean it wasn't. It just means we don't know it was. But what this means is we can't distinguish between a dog that missed their critical period and a dog that was traumatized. That tells you how significant the critical period is. That all of the signs of fear look like trauma. And if you think about that, trauma is damage, and lack of learning or lack of development is also damage. And so we create a narration for our dogs. We want to put a story in there to explain, the past trauma that might have caused this. And when in reality, our poor dog just didn't get what they needed. Now, that underexposure is so much more common than abuse that I think one thing I wish the world would start doing is assume the critical period was just missed. And here's why. Because the critical period can be remediated, and trauma is harder to remediate. Critical period is, I'm a teacher. Critical period is like a kid that just needs a little bit of extra work and remediation, maybe move them, back a grade and work. Whereas true trauma, we have to go through a lot of extra stuff that deals with the physical trauma, the spirit that's been broken, etc. We don't have to do that. We don't have flashbacks and PTSD when we're talking about missing a critical period. So that's the extra burden that trauma brings that missing this development window doesn't. All right. So here's a critical distinction about the critical period. You can only socialize a dog during the critical period. So if you've gotten a rescue dog that is 6 months old and you're thinking, I've got to socialize this dog, can't. You could only socialize them during their first critical period. Now what you're doing is remediation. You're helping them get extra tutoring. You're getting them training. You're helping them with exposure, but you're not socializing them because that's actually the normal development. You're automatically in remediation if the dog missed their critical period. So that's something that I really would like for all of us to think about is if you've got a dog and the first thing you're thinking is I've got to socialize, back up. We're not doing that yet. We have to relearn how to interact with the world in general rather than putting them out in novelty, because the puppy that needs to be socialized has no fear. The dog that missed their critical period has a ton of it. And if you take a dog that has missed their critical period and try to do it like you would with a puppy, exposure, you will make them more afraid. So you can't socialize them. You have to remediate them. And that's why it's critical. Okay. What do we do instead? Well, we desensitize them. We go very slow. Desensitization is slow exposure with reduced other things going on in the world to the thing that they're a little worried about. And that can be things like, I've an example. I have a dog right now who's very scared of everything. And he had a collar that made a little clacking noise. And when he would hear it, he would bolt. It scared him. So I took the collar off and we slowly introduced the sound and showed it to him. And then let him make the sound with his paws. Okay. And let him sniff it. I never used the collar again, but I let him learn where did that noise come from so he could reduce his fear of those types of noises. And then we got a collar that didn't clack. Okay. Habituation is a part of desensitization. You desensitize until they are habituated. So you desensitize until he's like, meh, I don't care about that anymore. It doesn't bother me. This same dog is terrified of thresholds. He does not like to go through doors. Ruger, who is one of the dogs we're working with, is also afraid of thresholds. And so we're working on getting him desensitized to going through doors without fear. And we're going to, when we know we're working, when we've worked, is he sees doors as neutral. That'll be him habituated. Okay. We're going to do confidence building, which is helping him be successful at things. And those are usually games, like pattern games. And we'll do some counter conditioning. So we will do some associations, like when you go through this door, treats happen. Oh, look, there's a cause effect here that is a positive outcome. So these are the terms that you'll hear from trainers that'll say, hey, you need to desensitize the dog, or we're going to do some counter conditioning. These are all the tools that we use. And if you were an educator in a classroom, we would be doing things like this too. These are specific tools to help remediate that behavior. And here's why they work. An animal that is afraid of something or has anxiety will do better if they can predict outcomes. So by desensitizing and building habituation, you can help this dog predict what's going to happen. When my foster dog can predict going through the door means good things happen, then he feels more confident in doing that. And when I can help him do that and do it with his energy low instead of fearful, I'm helping him support regulation and doing it calmly. And we talk a lot about calm and self-regulation in other webinars, and we'll cover that more. And then as we do that, we create recovery for him. And so we're going to build resilience through successful repetitions of this experience until he goes, doors, psh, old hat, I got this. That's exactly why they work.
Debbie, I'm so sorry. There's a question posted here. I don't know if you can see it, so I'll read it to you. It's from Tony.
Yep.
So with the critical period at 3 to 12 weeks, the 3 to 8 week is when most are with their breeder. Does this put a lot of responsibility on the breeder to begin the process? Otherwise, the new owner has to catch up from 8 to 12. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. Here's the problem with the United States in the way we deal with breeders. We allow people to pick up the puppy at 8 weeks, but the window closes for the critical period at 12, right? So right in the middle of the critical period, the puppy is removed from their mother and litter and put into a very scary space with no parent, no parental bond, and they have to figure it out. And so we automatically set up puppies for fearful experience. If we could get breeders to not release puppies until 12 weeks, that alone would help. But yes, there's an enormous burden on the breeders and on the person who's asking for a dog from the breeder. That's one of the first things that you really ought to understand from them is, what do you do to socialize those babies in that early critical period? And how will you know when that baby is ready to leave mama? Are they confident enough to leave? You know, what do I need to do to make that 8 to 12 week gap work for the puppy? You know, are they already showing confidence? Are they already showing resilience? Can they recover when they're scared? Or would it be better to leave the puppy a little bit longer with mama? Now, the European Union has laws now that puppies cannot leave mama until 12 weeks. Not all countries agree with that. England is one that's now the legislation's going through. So think about breeders as an industry, you're asking them to keep those puppies an extra month. That's a huge cut into their finances. But it's a huge deal for the welfare of those dogs. So I would love to see America think about that. And people who are looking for breeders, if the breeder is really savvy, they will have a program for building confidence in those puppies. They'll be very specific. Yes, I'm exposing them to these things. Yes, I'm exposing them to people. Yes, we've done this for these weeks to these weeks in this order. And then you're going to also check that puppy out and see, is the puppy confident or fearful? Does the puppy approach novelty without hesitation? Do they recover when they're a little bit startled? And we tend to pick puppies. It's so funny. I'll see people go, I picked the quietest one in the group. That might be the puppy that shut down. Okay? Or I picked the rowdiest one in the group. That may be a puppy that's overstimulated. Neither of those are probably the best regulated puppy. You want the puppy in the middle that almost nobody notices. That's probably the best puppy to pick. So yeah, great question. You nailed it. I love it.
Can I just want to add a comment to that too? We're not anti-breeding by any means as a dog rescue.
Right.
We're anti-bad breeding or backyard breeding. And that is one of the things that I can say I have seen more often when we get a dog in that has behavior challenges, and we'll ask the owner who's surrendering the dog, when did they get the dog from the breeder? In most cases, the puppy was 6 or 7 weeks old.
Yep. Absolutely. Which is, I'm sorry, criminal, absolutely damaging to that puppy. And it's so sad because people don't know. They just go, they're choosing the dog they like by the way it looks or the breed they want. And they think the breeder's the expert. What they don't understand is the breeder is the car salesman. And you want a car salesman that's selling you an honest deal, not one that has like repainted the car and not told you how many accidents it's been in. And that's why we look at ethical breeding. You know, I'm not against breeding in any way. It's ethical breeding that's the most important part. And that's why I'd like to see more regulations come in about age of puppy and how when that puppy can be separated from mama. Great questions. Thanks, Michelle. Okay. Reset. So that was the first critical period. We made it through. The puppy made it to 12 weeks. They made it through their critical period. They are interested in the world. They understand what's safe and not safe. They feel pretty confident approaching things. They feel like the world around them, even though it's very small, is fairly familiar and they can manage it. And then they have a little bit of a gap, and then they move into their second critical period. And that job is when they're a teenager. And just like human teenagers, their job is to cope. How do they cope with the world, the bigger world, with its bigger challenges? This is the second critical period. This is really age 12 to adolescence. And there's going to be puppies that are all different ranges of speeds of development. So you might have a puppy that develops quickly, gets all that critical period stuff out of the way by age 8 weeks. Then 8 to 12, they're kind of scooting with all that confidence, and they hit 12 weeks. And here comes that second critical period, and adolescence is truly online. And guess what? You've got the second fear period. And so this is real. Now, if you've got a dog that has done well in their first critical period, they'll be the little, goofy dog that goes to check things out and then comes back to check in with you. So they're going to explore their world. The dog that has not is going to have kind of two directions to go. Hyperactive, overreactive, overstimulated, reactive, aggressive. That's one branch. And the other branch is fearful, shy, reluctant, hiding, and folded in on themselves. Those are two ways that they go if they don't do well in this period, and especially if they're ill-equipped when they come into it. So here's their job in this second period. Okay, this is how they learn to turn off. So really the first one, if you think about it, is how they're learning to turn on to their world. Ooh, what's there? Is it scary? Cool, it's not scary. I love this. I'm going to do it again. So they're switching on. This time they're learning to switch off. They're learning bite inhibition. They're learning frustration tolerance. They're learning impulse control. They're learning to bounce when they're upset. Okay, and they're learning to return to a baseline. And so you'll see adolescents that do encounter frustration. They'll start with the barking, but they're able to manage the disappointment. That's when you do crate training, and the 12-week plus old puppy goes into the crate, barks a little bit out of frustration, and then it's over. They curl up and go to sleep. If that is a puppy that is not able to manage their frustration, you've got one that shreds stuff, bends the bars, hurts themselves trying to get out. You can see the difference. They're just ill-equipped to manage how they feel and to self-regulate. Impulse control there's a huge difference. And actually that's one of the ways that you can pick it out. You can almost see, that dog, the one that is not able to manage their own impulses, they jump, they bite, they nip, they mouth, they can't stop. That's a dog that's probably missed their first critical period. They just don't really pause. And this is where training, structured training, is really good, because if we can manage that impulse control and give them a way to self-regulate, they kind of do well after that. They kind of bump away. The frustration intolerance, that's harder to manage because there's a deep emotional response to it as well. But it can be managed, and especially again with structure and good attachment, bonding is really important. And then emotional recovery, can they go back to baseline? Unfortunately, when teenagers are so frustrated, they're also big and they tend to be mouthy and bitey and jumpy, and humans get frustrated too. And so when you have the two beings hit heads over frustration, the dog doesn't learn how to manage their emotions and they don't return to baseline. So this is where taking a breath and being able to do the fear-free, easy, take it and calm everything down training that Diane and I really like to do. Whereas when you get into a more rigid type of training that you will obey and it's backed up with either force or aversion, these behaviors just increase, and sometimes they get sublimated. The dog doesn't show them because I know it's going to be a problem. They're going to get, either punished or hurt. It ends up coming inside, and that's when you get the aggression coming back out. So when this dog hits this period and they are not well balanced, that's when we get called. This is when I get called the most, is this adolescent dog that just isn't able to manage. And I can look at it and go, aha, first critical period didn't work well. So in this job, in this period, we're learning this and we can help them with it. When this goes well, when they have a good teenage time, they can play like crazy and stop for a couple seconds, relax, and play again. I want to challenge you to go to a dog park and watch dogs play. Not your own dogs, because you'll have your own judgments. Watch somebody else's dogs play at a dog park. Now, I'm not a proponent of dog parks in general, unless you have like a neighborhood that it's all their dogs and you know each other. But this is a great exercise. You'll see the balanced, regulated dogs that have had good development will play for about 30 seconds, la, 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 and then they'll stop. And they'll all sniff, and take a break. And then somebody will start it again and they play. They don't escalate until someone yipes. They don't get to the point where they're facing off. And if that does happen, another dog will come and split them and calm them down, and everybody relaxes, and then they go back to normal play. There's a rhythm to it. Dogs that have gone through this period, they can do things like, hey, chase me, and then I'll chase you. Whereas dogs that haven't do things like, I can only be chased because that's the only way I feel safe, or I can only chase. Or if you chase me, I'm going to bite you, but I get to chase you. So there's a lot of rules because they can't regulate. If this period goes well, they have really good boundaries. They're consistent. They can say things like, hey, I'm okay with being played with this way with this dog, but I'm also okay with saying no to that dog and not turning it into a fight. So that's a healthy, balanced dog. So it's a really good exercise to go watch, and you can see it. And in fact, this one thing that Diane and I have talked about is we've talked about videoing dog play and doing play-by-play, or taking a field trip with a bunch of people and go and just like, what do you see? And talk through what's happening in the dog play. I have taken clients to dog parks and kind of narrated, I felt like a football caller, narrated the plays so they could see what was going on and which dogs were actually regulated and which dogs were not. All right. All right. When they miss the adolescent period, and then what happens, they usually miss the adolescent period in the shelter. That's usually how it happens, or on the street. Okay. Or if they're, in a home that doesn't do anything to help them expose them or work with them. It's usually a lack that happens here. They can develop something called kennellosis, which is a funky term, but it basically means a dog that has just become kennel crazy. They just aren't able to cope with the world outside of their kennel, and they have habitual behaviors like pacing and chewing. That can be an extreme of it. They tend to miss in the shelter because they're confined and don't get stimulation. They aren't given the opportunity to try things and learn when to shut off. They generally don't have dog group play in shelters just for safety. And when they do, they aren't often paired the way they do on daycares, where daycares really look at play style and who's a healthy player and who's not. Instability in their environment. This can be caused by the family around them. It could be caused by, again, being in the shelter or on the street. But it can be just having too much going on. And, a house full of a bunch of people can be a reason why a dog misses this period if it's just too much stimulation. So this is a little bit more nuanced. It isn't as obvious why the dog misses unless the dog's in a shelter. But what we see, though, is that the symptoms are pretty obvious. Okay. Here are the adult outcomes. We get called for this all the time. So we get called for a dog that can't calm down. They're the dog that greets someone, a family member or a guest at the door, and they're so hyper. They're bouncing and they jump and they slam, they knock people down. And, or they're so reactive that they can't come off of it. They just never settle. They pace all the time. They're always alert. They're always at the door barking, or they're at the window or at the fence lines and running up and down. They just don't have a way to shut off. They tend to be very mouthy dogs. We're not talking puppy mouthiness. We're talking about dogs that are pushy mouthy, mouthing for what they want, mouthing for frustration, mouthing because they're hyper aroused, snapping or biting, pulling on clothes. Sometimes I'll go in the homes and the owners will say, "This is my dog," right as I come in the door. Dog doesn't have a leash on. Dog has jumped up, grabbed my glasses or my hair, grabbed my shirt. Oh, I think I know what's going on. This dog has no ability to deal with their own arousal and has become super mouthy. And the difference between hyperarousal and difficulty settling is really the hyperarousal is the really chaotic part of that. And difficulty settling is just restless. They just aren't able to find a calm state. And that's the dog that will get up and move all the time, or they don't like being touched when they're sleeping. They grumble when you walk past them. They're just a little bit too alert. So that's the adult outcomes there. Now, some of the best advice, and this is going to come back into one of Michelle's things that she has about dog parks too, is some of the best advice, and I'm putting that in quotes now. Some of the advice you'll get on social media from friends is, well, just exercise the dog. It just needs exercise. It needs an outlet. Sigh. What happens is they take this unregulated, hyper-aroused dog and you go out and you exercise the heck out of it. And what you're doing is building a really muscular, fit, hyperactive dog. And just because a dog is tired doesn't mean they're calm. And if anyone has ever had a toddler in their life, you know exactly what that means. You've seen it. Just because they're tired doesn't mean they're calm. That doesn't mean they're able to just relax. It can often mean they're just terrors. A calm dog is not a tired dog. And a lot of people say, oh, that's the best kind. That's that saying, But really, that's not the best answer. Yes, we need to make sure that dog is getting an adequate level of exercise. But exercise is not the treatment for this problem. The treatment for this problem is helping the dog learn how to calm down and regulate themselves. And that's what the training is for. Okay, we're trying to help them create a baseline of self-regulation that they can return to. And if we keep just exercising them, all they're going to be is really fit and cranky as opposed to regulated. Here's the remediation if they miss the second period. And this is the stuff you're going to hear if you've ever had a trainer work with you or if you've worked with us. We're going to do some pattern games that are predictable, that they can get into a rhythm, that help them use their brain, that give them a chance to put that energy somewhere. And it helps them use repetition to put their system into a rhythm. Then we're going to teach them how to stop and start play so that they can become aroused for play and shut off. Aroused and shut off. Here, play tug with me for a second. Tug and stop. Tug and stop. We don't let it become tug until you're so upset that now you're biting at me and trying to steal the toy. It's a little tug and stop. Okay. It isn't throw the ball until the dog drops. It's toss the ball. We're done playing. And then we come back and try again. It's learning to stop. One of the best tools that Diane uses, and I love seeing her do it, is the flirt pole. And a flirt pole looks like a big cat toy, if you've never seen one. But it is a line with a bungee cord and a something on the end, a fuzzy or a little toy. And what you do is you train the dog to chase it, but to stop. So lots of people get a flirt pole and they'll get their dog to chase it until they drop. Well, that's actually just building a more stimulated dog. What you do is you get them to chase it and shut off. And so they learn to have a switch. So we have to teach them how to turn on and off instead of just revving until they're over the top. Dog parks are notorious for rev. Okay, the dogs get revved and they just run and 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 run. And then they get upset and they snap at somebody and we have a fight. So dog parks are not for the unregulated dog. They're for the dog that can regulate. And so when people come in and the first thing they do, they take the leash off their dog and the dog just shoots in and starts just crazy, but isn't able to take a break. That dog is the dog that shouldn't be there. And unfortunately, most owners, they think that's the remedy. So we have to get them to calm their dog down. One of the things I love and Diane works really well with is teaching the dog to settle. And one of the things she likes to talk about is having the dog melt into place and relax. True relaxation. If you've ever had a massage and that like wobbly need, can't get off the table massage, that's what we're looking for in a dog when we're teaching them to relax and put in a regulation switch. So that's her word is melty for it. So those are the things, that's the remediation. That's what the trainers are asking for and what we're going to put in place for a dog that needs this work. And so we also ask for these. We're going to ask you to have a mat or a place to teach place so the dog can go somewhere and turn off. And we're going to ask everybody else in the household to leave the dog on the mat and not bother them so that they actually can switch off. We're going to teach them to pause regularly in things we're doing, including walking. We're going to pause and just watch the world. Suzanne Clothier, fantastic trainer with great books, talks about the art of doing nothing. When she has a puppy that's unregulated, she'll get her folding chair and go out to her front lawn with treats, stick a mat down for her dog, and they will just watch the world go by until the dog melts. And the dog learns to relax in the presence of stimulation. Oops, I went back one. There we go. Oh, sorry. No, dreaming. And then again, we talk about pauses and the calm reps. So we talked about a couple times before going out and spending time in your front yard instead of going a long walk. This is what we're asking for, is getting your dog to have a tiny bit of stimulation and shutting off, and then teaching them what happens if a little bit more, you can still shut off. And then a little bit more, you can still shut off. And we're building a muscle that would have been built in their brain normally if they had had the right environment during that critical period. And we're helping build those connections and hopefully remediate what's left there. Some of it has to be on cue. Some of it has to be out of habit and pattern. And some of it will actually become embedded. All right, so how do we integrate the two? Okay, so what about the dog that misses both? Right. Well, training actually does merge the two. So if we get a dog that had a great first period, but for some reason their adolescent period was off, really we can build those. We can have a dog that's curious but we have to deal with their coping. We can do that. Most dogs we see in rescue, most of the dogs you're going to get are going to be the ones that really have missed both. But what's nice is any of the training that we're doing they're going to build the skills and put those things back in place. And as much as we preach, Diane and I have preached calm, 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 calm. That's really what I'd like you to walk away with. I would like you to walk away with the idea of training dogs these days is not about obedience. Sit, stay, wait, leave it. Those are great skills. But training a dog today is relax, feel safe, check out the world, respond effectively, recover when you're stressed. That's what real training is. Okay. Oh, look at that face. Rescue dogs aren't behind because they're abused. They're really behind just because their learning was interrupted and the environment around them didn't have the structure to fix it. And our job is to kind of embed those lessons to help them rebuild those skills and then layer some knowledge like training on top of it to give them the coping. So we're going to restart it. We're going to do it carefully. We're going to do it within the pace they can manage. And we're going to go put it into a way that they feel that they are actually getting the structure of affection and the structure of safety around them so they can explore their world. And I love this quote: the ones who understand what a dog was supposed to learn during this critical period, the training isn't confusing. It actually makes sense. Like we're replacing what they didn't get. All right. I'm going to stop there. All right. Questions, thoughts, comments? It is open to y'all.
I just have a comment, and I say this probably during every webinar because it always does apply. And you would, I'm sure, get very different comments and questions if you were talking to a German Shepherd rescue versus a Golden Retriever rescue. But, our downside is they are Golden Retrievers. Mm-hmm. And everybody just assumes that they're going to be happy-go-lucky and that Goldens come that way.
Yeah.
And so our biggest challenge in rescue is we don't know. We have zero clue what their socialization period was, because we didn't get them at 3 weeks. And so we have no idea. So we really try to educate our fosters to, give the dog a break, give them space, assume that they need that time to decompress, adjust, settle in. Most of the time we get lucky and our dogs come in and they're pretty good or pretty well adjusted. We have a dog we just brought in about 2 weeks ago that was taken from her owner by a court because she was being punched.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was terrible. But we didn't know what to expect.
Uh-huh.
And so it's only been a couple of weeks, but she seems pretty well adjusted. Mm-hmm. But it's a situation like that. Or we have a dog, we've got a couple dogs that just came in, but it's typical that have never lived in a home before. So you can assume if they've never lived inside a home before or don't know how to walk on a leash, that they miss that critical socialization period. Yeah. They don't know how to play with toys. They don't know how to, interact with other dogs or just simply be a dog. So that's why these types of things are so important for our community, because education is a huge part of our mission. And we really want to make sure that people don't over expect from the dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michelle, it's so easy to go, well, you don't know the dog's history, so you don't know what they missed. Actually, you can go backwards. Oh, this is a hyper unregulated, mouthy, pushy, bossy, reactive dog.
So they
guess what they missed. Yeah. So you can do it from symptoms. And really, this isn't meant to be as a diagnostic tool as much as it is helping you understand why the training that's prescribed, for any better reason or word for that, does what it does, right? So you talk to one of us behavior folks and we say, well, we really want you to do these really simple games like 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 times a day for 5 minutes. And you're going, okay, right? But behind the scene is that pattern where your dog can go, I can predict that you're going to make these noises, 1, 2, 3 noise, and I get a treat after that. And if I follow along, it's joyful and pleasant, then I'm learning, right? So that prediction lowers their anxiety, and I can 1, 2, 3 a reactive dog past another dog, and we've remediated, right? So it's really the purpose of this is to help understand that the stuff that we're learning that seems so simple is actually a very powerful tool to help get over those humps of what the dog's missed. And I think for you, I mean, for your organization, just assume they've missed their critical period, unless you've got a really balanced dog coming in going, hi folks, I'm here, just assume they've missed it, especially if the dog's coming in and they're high energy and they're, bouncing off your walls and mouthing stuff. Most people say that's adolescence. It is for their recovery. Can they recover and can they settle? If they can't do those two things, we're looking at some critical period missing.
I'm sorry, Michelle, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I was just going to say, I'd like your thought on how much things like prenatal stress and genetics play a part in the dog's adolescence and their overall development.
You just opened Pandora's box. Okay, soapbox, getting up, everybody sit still. No, I'll just say this. They just released research that shows that mice, cat, and dog generations, 3 generations down, can pass on fear. Okay, so if grandma has fear, mom will have fear, daughter will have fear. So we know genetically a fearful dog can be passed down from 3 generations. So grandma can have a fearful experience, mom can have a perfect life but be fearful, and daughter can have a perfect life but be fearful. So genetically, it's very high. And even that epigenetically. So let's say you've got a stray mama or a neglected mama that has puppies. The puppies are going to be awash with stress hormones that affect their development and the timing of their development. And even though mama was not a fearful dog, they may have a shift in the genetics that set that up. So we do know that what's happening for them while they're developing prenatally is vital. And so that's a really good question to ask a breeder too. And what we know about dogs that have made it through rescue systems is that more often than not, even if they are a pure breed, that they may well have come from, a not ethical breeder. And so you've got the epigenetic changes, the poor nutrition, and you've got possibly, because breeders breed so fast, you've got 2 or 3 litters a year if you're in Texas because it's hot. So every female dog can go through 3 litters a year. So that 3 generation legacy that's not hard to reach in a year or 2. So just assume that it's also coming in that way. And that's why I say it's not necessarily abuse. It's missing that critical period, but it's also, man, they're coming in with baggage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We have a raised hand. I'm going to butcher the name. Please forgive me. Thank you. I was going to say it and I'm going, oh, this is going to be bad. I apologize.
Yeah, no worries. So my name is Preeti. So thank you, by the way. This is great information. Wish I had learned this on some prior dogs I had and some myth busters, like a tired dog is a good dog. So my question is really somewhat around for Michelle. I'm in the process of hopefully getting through the various steps in adopting.
Nice.
Based on the dogs that that get matched to the family, and if there are certain, I hate the word challenges, but prior trainers have always used the word dogs and challenges with it. I just feel like there's a negative stigmatism to that word. Yeah. But would you, Michelle, or does your team say, hey, here's a good fit, but here's a dog that's probably going to have 1, 2, 3, a couple of things we really recommend training and kind of what that would look like so that we're not figuring that out after we get the dog. Because I do absolutely want to engage in a trainer no matter what. You know, I think it's a great experience really for the owner to learn the dog and the dog to learn the owner. But did we get kind of an update of these are the certain behaviors that we've noticed? It would be advisable to use a trainer to help address some of these things.
So yes, as much as we know. And the thing, we're challenged for a lot of reasons, and I will use the word challenge, but because we are rescue, we can't keep dogs in foster care forever. We have to they come in, we have a certain period that they're in foster care, and then we move them to their forever home. And if you've adopted from Gold Ribbon, you've been through our process, which is very thorough. And we often get criticized for being so thorough, but there's a reason. And that's because they are rescue dogs. They all come in with some level of baggage. Some have, you know, a little tote bag, and some have a 7-piece luggage set. I mean, they all have something. And so we assess them as much as we can before adoption. But we also talk about when we're matching dogs to our families, just because the dog behaved one way at my house doesn't mean it's going to be that way at your house. And it's impossible for us to recreate the exact environment, the exact personality, people. Dogs feed off of all of their surroundings and their environment. So we talk about this a lot. And that's why we say, what are you going to do? And how are you going to be able to manage the relationship with the dog? What kinds of things are you going to do when the dog comes in? What's your training background? What kind of training are you going to do? What kind of mental enrichment are you going to do? So we do our best to talk those things through and really try to match the dog to the family that we think is going to be the best fit. Our saying in rescue and with Gold Ribbon, we match the dog to the family, not the family to the dog. We have a lot of disappointed families that see a pretty dog on our website and want that certain dog, but we might not think that's the right dog for that family. And there's a lot of reasons why that could go into play. So we're not perfect, but we try to do as good a job as we can, making sure that our families are educated and we're matching the right dog to the right family.
And I have to jump in and say, as someone who loves behavior, Michelle, that the idea that you guys do match the dog appropriately instead of going, "Ooh, I like that dog, I want to sign up for that dog." You know, doing the matchmaking, I mean, just like any other kind of matchmaking, that's just so important. And what we see coming from other shelters and rescues is their idea of matchmaking is they are eliminating what's bad and not looking for what's good necessarily. Like, well, this dog would not be good in that fence, right? So you can't have, that's not okay. Yours are much more about this dog's temperament, this dog's, how it fits the family's pacing and, environment. I mean, it's so much more thoughtful, which is why Diane and I love working with you. It's just, you guys are great.
Well, and thank you for that. One of the things that we just started doing, and we're kind of testing to see, but if you have adopted from us or you're in the process, you go to our website, you look at our dogs, and we would have the dog stories on the website. And the stories are written from the foster reports that are turned in by the fosters. But they're, when I talk to people, I say they're very fluffy. It's like a dating profile. You don't put in your dating profile that you snore and that, you have back acne and, that you slur your suit. You want to put all the positive things. The challenge, though, with that is that it often can set people up for false expectations. So we just took off all the dog stories on our website. So if you go and you look at our website now, there are no fluffy dog stories. We're not talking about that this dog loves cats and and you'll see on our website, we're not going to say that this dog loves all cats or this dog loves all dogs or this dog loves all children, because we can't guarantee that any dog is going to love every cat, child, or dog. So we're trying to set people up with realistic expectations, but we have to work together with our families to make sure that we can accomplish the same goal.
I can guarantee you, I don't like all dogs, cats, and children.
Exactly.
I mean, there's no across the board on any of those.
Right.
Thank you, Michelle. Those are great answers. Preeti, did you feel like you got your answer?
I did, thank you.
That's-
And I actually
Thank you.
am very appreciative, Michelle, of how you all do this process. It is intense. I wish we did that with humans, and just saying that it's a great process. It's set up for success both ways.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you here. The floor is open. And also remember, the floor is open for questions about your current dog or foster or anything else, and others, other topics too. So if you feel like, whew, that was a lot, I need to digest this, but you have other things you want to ask, we're open to that as well.
We have a quiet group tonight.
We do. It's the post sleet snooze.
We're all just coming out of hibernation.
So, hey, Patsy. Come on in. The water's warm. Let's get you unmuted. Let's see. Oh, you're still muted. Oh, you're still muted. There we go. I don't think.
Well, I'll put somebody on the spot because this is kind of what we're here for, and because like on my screen, Kristen, your face is literally right in the center, and you just got a brand new foster dog.
Yeah,
That's right.
So the foster dog am I saying your name right? Is it Nally?
No.
No.
Yeah.
So the foster dog that they just brought in is a dog that's lived outside her whole life. We know really very minimal about her background.
Yeah.
And so would assume that she missed all of the critical socialization period. So
I know. I
how
can't
is that
figure it
going?
out. It's going well. She's so sweet. I've reread her. I printed like all the documents at work today. She's got like a binder now at our house. And I don't know if I can't figure it out. It sounds like maybe she was inside like in the first situation she was in, but she was definitely outside for like the last year. And I did notice that she has a thing with the threshold. And but she's been coming in and she hasn't had any accidents, which we were like kind of expecting that. But she's been a real sweetheart. But I'm also like, I know she's in the decompression period, so I'm still kind of like waiting, to see her full personality and all that. But so far so good, knock on wood. She's beautiful. She's a sweetheart.
Well, it takes a lot to take a dog in that we don't know a lot about, and we don't really have a lot of history and can't guarantee that the dog's housebroken and all the things.
Yeah.
So thank you for stepping up and taking her in. She's heartworm positive. She already was spayed. So at least there was that, but she is heartworm positive. I don't know health-wise what else came with her, but I mean, we hope she's a total sweetheart, and we're really grateful for you guys giving her a soft space to land and a warm home to be able to be in.
We're so happy to help, and we're really glad to be part of the community.
Yeah.
I did just want to confirm, because Debbie, you said, so it's okay to give her a treat every time to get her over the threshold.
Pay her well.
Okay. Because our
Pay
other
her
dog,
well.
we have another dog named Tex, and he like won't do anything unless we have treats. And like we're kind of like, was that the goal? Like we were kind of hoping by now he would just like behave like without bribery, but he's not doing that. And then she seems to really like Tex. My other concern is that I worry Tex will teach her bad behaviors.
Yes.
And I like crying, like Tex is kind of a whiner, and she hasn't made a peep. But then today I heard her like whine a little bit, and I'm like, oh no, is he gonna, is she not gonna get adopted because he's teaching her bad manners?
Okay, so take a deep breath.
I know, seriously.
But it's okay. So you know what? Dogs do what works. Okay, so think about it that way. So she's watching Tex, and she's like, he whined and he got something. Right? Like, that might work. So you start thinking about how is Tex interacting with you. And if you want to change that, we can provide some tips. But in training, conventional training, eventually you're supposed to fade how often you reward for that behavior, right? So Tex has just missed that part. And so now he's like, you have to pay me every time or I'm just not going to do it. And that's a little bit harder to once if we've made them kind of sit in that spot to push them past. But if you're working with, I forget what's this new foster's name?
They're calling her Irie because she's a
Oh, I
Lucy,
saw it.
but then there's been like several Lucy's through Gold Ribbon, so I think it's Irie.
Irie, I
Ira.
saw it post. Ira. Okay, there we go.
Ira, sorry. Yeah. Oh, I like that.
I like Irie.
Right? It's cute. You can say all kind of cute things with Irie.
She actually doesn't really respond a lot to both names.
Yeah, she probably doesn't know it's her yet. And so you probably need to give her a name, teach her name.
Yeah.
But train her with texts elsewhere when you're working on the threshold. And then train her with Tex happily going through the threshold so she can see that he didn't die doing it.
That's good.
Okay, that works. But yeah, I would say that she's in this decompression phase. She's going to be watching him for everything that works. And yes, she's going to pick up his bad habits. None of those are bad enough. That's not bad enough to get her not, adopted. And we can help you shape some of those so she doesn't pick up really bad habits. But the whining, if she starts whining because of him, don't reward it. Just
right. We never reward it. He's just kind of an anxious guy. He's got like he's a rescue too, and he's definitely got like some husky in him, and he's very vocal.
Well, that explains it because huskies will talk about anything.
We hear a lot from him.
Yeah, they'll tell you all about how you did or didn't do it right. That's cute. Thank you so much for stepping up for her. Oh, I love it. Thank you. And then I see that Patsy. Hey, Patsy. Thank you for this topic. You were great. You're still on mute though, babe. I want to get you. I don't know. I can't get you. I can't unmute you. Let's see. There we go. Uh-oh. Well, hold on. Well, that didn't work. Try unmuting yourself again. I think I just reversed it by accident. Nope. Diane, you are also muted. All right, hold on, folks. I think this may well be software. What? No way. Hold on. I'm the only one who can talk. Power. Hold on. Let's see. Mute. I absolutely have no idea why everybody is muted. Host deactivated mic. It's my fault. Host tools. All right, let's see if I can find this out. Meeting tools. I love how it told on me. All right, hold on a second. Turn on microphones. Try that. Yep. Woohoo! All right.
Yes, that worked.
That worked. Okay. I still don't have Patsy though. Dang nabbit.
Patsy, can you type in the question you have on chat?
Here we go. Heather, was that your help? Thank you so much for getting the host deactivated.
Thank you.
Oh, let's see what we got for Patsy here. All righty.
Here we go.
Patrick, thank you so much. That's wonderful.
That is
Patrick
cool.
says, just looking into foster today as well. That's outstanding.
Oh, you know what? I didn't realize that the Tokarskis are on. Yep, they just got their foster dog.
Nice.
Did you guys get Birdie today, Patrick?
Hey, yes, we just did. Let me turn my camera on here. We just
Love
got Birdie. We picked her up today from her spay, so she's had a lot happen. Birdie was found as a stray, no microchip, no nothing. So I feel like a lot of this kind of is ringing true just because it's tough when you have no idea of the dog's background. So everything is, the folks who got her off the street were very helpful and very informative, but a lot of good call outs to make sure that she's she's kind of on a good track, and we've got another dog here to hopefully help ease the transition.
Nice. Yay. Thank you so much for fostering.
Yeah.
Yay. Heather, I saw your hand up too. Let's see if we can bring you in. I'm going to mute myself, Diane, and see if I can help Patsy.
Sure.
Hi, yes, I just had a question if y'all can help me. We have we rescued a Luna in December of last year, and she started eating socks. She's 2 years old. She turned 2 on 1 January 1st. And so, oh, let me see if I can get you see her. So we thought it was just a one-time thing, and say hi.
Yeah. Oh, what a face.
She's shaking, so we teaching her how to shake. She's doing great. Yeah. Mwah. And so the socks thing, I was like, oh, she just needs more enrichment. So I've been doubling her enrichment, like with a Kong and with a lick mat.
Mhm.
And now she ate one of the kids' gloves, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So we've already been on sock duty. Like everyone keeps their socks off the ground, everything. So I don't know if this is attachment, because it was when my daughter went to her dad's. So she has so much fun with her. I just don't know if, can you tell me some things about them consuming socks and mittens?
Oh, well, yeah, well, Goldies and Labs, they consume everything, unfortunately. It's,
Okay.
I mean, it's just kind of in their nature. They're very mouthy to begin with. It's their nature to have things in their mouth, carry things, and retrievers and all of that. It sounds like you've taken the first step, which is to definitely management, meaning being careful of what you're leaving out. And it's you've got kids, then young kids,
Yeah,
I'm
2 kids.
assuming.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
she has 20 toys. I'm looking at 20 of her toys right all in front of me in the house, but it's a sock. But
so
it's,
here's the thing that will
Yeah.
help with that a little bit. If you're leaving tons of toys out for her, the
Mhm.
problem is that she loses interest in them, because
Okay.
like kids at Christmas, if you have all the boxes out and they open everything and they're like, okay, what's next? I've played with that and I've played with that. So I like to
Okay.
bring one toy out at a time and rank them, meaning if you need her to be challenged with something like the licky mats and the Kongs you were talking about, those are the things where it's like, I need you to have attention for a while, and I
Yeah.
need you to focus on this, and rotating them too. So again, she doesn't get bored with them, going, oh, if all I'm getting is a Kong with peanut butter, I'm tired of the peanut butter now because we've done this, every day. She just gets tired of it. So
Yeah.
having different ones, you may already be doing this. So if you are, bear with me.
Mhm.
If you freeze them too, that makes them last longer. So if you're looking for length of time to have them, I have a whole bunch of different ones in my freezer with different things in them. So you can utilize yogurt if she likes yogurt.
Mhm.
Or, excuse me, bananas is another good one. Sweet potatoes.
Okay.
So again, having multiple things, so that helps as well. Also keeping in mind, you'd mentioned you thought maybe it's because, remind me again, there was a reason you thought that.
Oh, my daughter went to her dad, so I thought, I swear that the glove was on the table because it was drying out. I put all the gloves on the table, but
Yeah.
then I was like, and then I saw the little nubby of the finger left,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
where's the rest of it? Like
Yeah.
shredding is one thing, that's fine. She doesn't shred
Sure.
anything, and she
Sure.
doesn't destroy any of her toys, but she
Yeah.
swallowed 2 socks
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and then now this one, and I was like, I haven't seen this one come out yet, so I'm
Oh.
just
Yeah. So, making sure
Really
she
gross.
gets some fiber. Pumpkin
Mhm.
is a good one if
Yeah.
she'll eat pumpkin, just to make
Yeah.
make sure things are getting pushed through. But if you're noticing, it might be, if your daughter is her like favorite toy, and I don't mean to,
Yeah.
I'm not describing your daughter as a toy,
No, I mean,
but
they do
And so she might have been just really upset that your daughter was leaving. And so that was a way for her to manage her emotions. I know it seems weird. It's like, why would you eat a glove in order to manage your emotions? But that could have been it. So Debbie,
Yeah.
do you have a thought on that? Sorry, jump in.
I think you've nailed it. And also, I mean, it smells like the daughter. It's just a way of self.
And they were playing in the snow and stuff. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
heard the ice and
Yep.
it was so fun. But I was just like, oh my gosh, okay, now I need to be on glove duty too. And so now I'm like scanning. Well, should I put the jackets away? I feel like it's localized for just the small things, right? But
Likely it's, hands and feet secrete a particular kind of acid that dogs really like the taste of. And so socks and gloves tend to be something they really like to chew. And then underwear just because they're gross. But just because dogs are disgusting. But there is a particular acid that we secrete in our socks and in our palms and the soles of our feet that dogs really like to lick. That's why they like to lick feet. So probably you're okay if you just keep socks and gloves up and out of the way.
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
You bet. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's just an adventure. This adventure that keeps on giving.
Oh my gosh, they
Welcome
are.
to the world of dogs. Yes.
Thank you.
Good news, we got Patsy back. Yay!
Yay.
Patsy, I saw your thing, but go ahead and jump in because it's a great question. Oh, it went mute again.
Oh no.
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 There we go.
I got it. Sophia is barking at something.
Uh-huh.
So I muted it.
She has a question.
I didn't have a question. It was a compliment to the matchmakers and for Michelle because they matched us with, well, her name was Love, but we call her Sophia now. And there's that loud dog.
Yep.
But her and Luigi, we got to keep these names for my Italian husband. They go at it, running through the house and run, like you were saying, biting at each other and playing, and then they stop.
Mhm.
And then they just relax.
Nice.
And they start again just like that. But it's a good match. So I just wanted to compliment them to let them know.
Well,
And I
thank
think
you.
Barb was part of that too. I don't know where she went.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And
so-
And you made a comment about counter search.
Oh yeah, that skips. Well, see,
Yes.
that dog. My husband wears a cochlear implant. So while he was waiting for the oven to warm up, he's at the table and he's watching a film or something.
Right.
So I went in there and I told him the timer went off and he said, okay. And then I hear, where'd they go? And I came back, where'd what go? The biscuits. They're all gone.
No.
She ate them all, I guess. Uncooked, raw.
Uh,
But thank God she's over it. She's okay, aren't you?
Oh,
They
yeah.
work real good.
the secret to counter surfing, there's only one way to cure it, and that is no, they just can't be available. And I mean, I say one acceptable way. There is a way to cure it. You could punish them and make it really awful, but why would you do that, right? So the only thing is they get rewarded so well when they get something like a whole pan of rolls that's delicious.
No, it wasn't cooked.
Uncooked. I'm sure she just loved the softness of that, but that
Oh
was
yeah.
Ugh.
And I can consume it so much faster.
And I love it. People are always like, okay, so we've got to cure the counter surfing. I'm like, and that's 100% on you. And they're like, what, me? I have to change that.
Oh, it's so hard.
I'm trying to figure out, like, when Easter rolls around and my family's over here, where am I going to put all the food? I mean, there's only one higher one that I can put stuff on. I mean,
That's called baby baits. That's called baby baits. And the dog just
Dog
doesn't
goes elsewhere.
access the room. Yeah. Keep them
Yeah.
on.
maybe, yeah.
Yep.
Or I'll put her outside for
Yep.
a while.
Yeah.
That's really the best way. We had a Great Dane when I was a kid, and she could shop all of the surfaces.
Right.
And my mom was very savvy, and she had, the gates so that she could come through. But what's really funny is they were solid. And so we'd be sitting down at the dinner, and the dog would get down on her belly and crawl and put her nose through the gates. And so on our side, we'd see the gate go, all right. And we go, Sheba, Pearl, okay. And we start eating Sheba. She'd try every time. I don't blame her.
Yeah, well, yeah. Please.
No, it'll be interesting, but anyway, I don't have any other questions.
Lovely. Well, thank you.
Thank you
Thank you
for
so
sharing.
much for this topic, Betsy. I really appreciate it. Well, I'm unless there's another, I'm going to move to the last slide, which is a preview of next month's. Let's see what we've got here. Where'd mine go? Tab. There we go. So many people who adopt or foster are told this rule, that is the 3-3-3 rule. And that is the idea of you have to wait 3 days for the dog to compress, 3 weeks for the dog to kind of get around and learn your space, and then 3 months to feel at home. And we're going to myth bust that. We're going to spend some time really looking at what you have to do for a dog to go through those decompression windows. And is it really 3 days, 3 weeks, and 3 months? And what should we name it instead if it's not? So that's our preview. And we're going to give you really practical tools, not for just figuring it out, but for, being able to test, is my dog ready for that next phase? Is that's what I'm seeing. So that's going to be our next window. It's been a real pleasure. I'm looking forward to the 2026 version of these webinars for Diane and I. We just love doing this with you guys. What a great organization. And thank you to everybody who's fostering and adopting these dogs. Thank you so much. Have a great night. If you have questions, Michelle, you can email her for access to the other webinars and materials. There will be a PDF of the slides and a handout from this. So you'll be able to get those, but get to Michelle for those.
Thank you so much, Debbie.